Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember being a chess noob? Are you still a chess noob? It's a very interesting period in one's life when you're a beginner at the game of chess. It's sort of like learning how to ice skate. You step out onto the rink and you collapse face first on the ice. It's like when you try to learn a sophisticated cooking method on a copper pan, but you don't even know how to make toast. The kitchen is on fire, there's no fire extinguisher in sight. Today I'm showing you a game which is the chess equivalent of what I am currently describing. As yesterday, Ludwig, many of you know him, large streamer, he hosted an event called GothamChess. And in GothamChess, the participants get to see the eval bar as they play. It's a very interesting concept, and they get to adapt their playing style accordingly because they see the evaluation. Some people didn't like it. Some people called it one step closer to legalized cheating, which is that's just an intense opinion. And the game that I'm going to show you today was an epic consolation third place bracket game between Sykkuno and Peter Park. They're both large streamers. They're based in Los Angeles. If someone from their community watches this, hi. And the point of today's video is not to make fun of the players. It's to laugh at the pain that chess brings humanity. This game was amazing. Here we go. You are not ready. All right. White begins with e3. Peter plays c5, the Sicilian, and we have a Bon Cloud. Now, something tells me Sykkuno's rating is 100 constantly, because he plays the Bon Cloud every game. He's actually quite good, except he plays the Bon Cloud every game. Now, yes, Hikaru made a speedrun and got to 3,000 or something playing the Bon Cloud, but we can't all be Hikaru, right? So here Peter plays f6. Now, I want to see these guys moving forward, play more with the center pawns, get the knights out behind the center pawns. This was a crazy game. So Sykkuno takes the center, black brings the queen out. We don't want to do that. We want to move more center pawns, more knights. Now Sykkuno's like, oh, hype, I'm going to get the queens off the board, all right? I'm a strong, independent guy, I don't need no queen. Peter's like, nah, I'm going to keep the queen on, okay? No problem. Sykkuno slides the king to the queen square. All right, the king is actually gonna be taken care of, they're switching roles in life. All right, queen's gonna kind of lead the kingdom. We're gonna call it a queendom now. Now we see a little bit of pawn jostling, d5. Now we see c4 from white, kind of a queen's gambit, pawn jostling, and it's Peter who develops a piece first. It took about 8 moves, and Stockfish doesn't like it. Stockfish likes a nice little queenside pawn expansion here, gives white a nice little advantage. Sykkuno is like, oh, he moved his bishop, I gotta move my knight. Now, for the longest time, this pawn has been hanging with a check. The craziest thing about this move is it's not even good for black. The point is that black might get his queen trapped. It's just nuts. It's just crazy. Like c takes d4, you might get your queen trapped. So instead of that, Sykkuno trades queens, and Peter has an option here. He can trade the queens or run away, right? Those are his options. He chooses option number 3, which is Kool-Aid Man the door, and sacrifices his queen. He just loses his queen. Bishop takes queen here. Now let's keep in mind this was a speed game, so you can't see all these things if you're a beginner, right? And instead of taking the queen, Sykkuno plays queen a4. Now that is a check, and it gets the queens off. We now get a queen trade. The problem here is that white is down 2 pawns. You don't want to trade pieces when you are down material. All right, black plays knight e7. White can take this pawn with 2 different things, and he does. Top engine move. It's exactly what Stockfish rated 3700 suggests. Now we have knight f5. Unfortunately here, Sykkuno gets a little bit too hyped, and he's like, oh, what a bozo. He gave me another pawn. Knight takes e6. That's not going to do it, because that is something that we call protected. That is defended. Instead of that, Peter's like, well, this bozo took my pawn, so I'm going to take his pawn. So they are both hanging knights 2 different ways here. But Sykkuno doesn't have to move his king because he's in check, so he grabs the knight. Now, what I would have liked here from Peter is to slow it down and go, wait a minute, he took my knight. Can I take his knight? Right? He did to me what I did to him. All right. No, he develops a knight. Now, I like the move knight c6, but I would have liked it much more on the second move of the game. I would have liked just developing the knight to c6. The problem with developing the knight here is that white can go knight to c7, and that is a fork. You got to practice your tactics. And yeah, knight c7 is just winning the rook. Instead of that, Sykkuno goes the other way and loses his knight in 1 move, which Peter doesn't take. Okay. Now, the king e7's a move. This is just hanging. Now, the best move for white is to escape. Now, here, Sykkuno actually shows that even though he plays the Bon Cloud every game, he actually does have some serious hopes in chess, because he finds a very nice move, a4. Like, let's just disregard he's giving up this knight. The idea of a4 is to put the bishop behind the pawn and go here. That shows that you have strategic prospects in your brain. All right, little two-move sequences like that. That's like the next step from going from beginner to like advanced beginner and then intermediate. All right, Black plays knight b4. Sykkuno pins the knight to the king. I mean, this is just great. Black's best move here is now to defend. He doesn't do that. And for some reason, Sykkuno doesn't finish off the plan. He doesn't take the knight. Like, he's like, oh, I don't want to let him take my knight, so he goes here. I kind of get it, I kind of don't. Now here, Peter can take the knight. That is still a hanging knight. It's a long move, though. Long move. Instead, Peter's like, well, now I can save my knight by not saving it. If he could just take it now. But Sykkuno had gone here to also attack the bishop. You see, Sykkuno was trying to attack two things at the same time, so he just takes the bishop with check, which is actually the best move. Because now he can also take the knight. He doesn't see that, though, and now he hangs the knight again. Now here, Black can do a handful of things. Black can go here, or here, or here. Same fork as White had there, okay? Now, White here gives away the knight, but can take the knight with check. Here, Sykkuno plays probably the one move of the game I totally don't understand. He plays bishop b2. Which gives away the bishop, and also like the bishop was really good. I'm not really sure what he was trying to aim at here. Like, you know, he hasn't moved some of these other pieces. Basically, what I would tell beginners is you got to look around. If you can capture something, consider capturing it. If you can't, try to play a piece out that you haven't moved yet, right? Like White hasn't moved the knight or the bishop, so yeah, we've already moved this bishop. So this is the way you avoid mistakes as a beginner. You will accidentally find good moves because you just haven't moved certain pieces. But all right, now Peter finds the fork and wins the rook. The reason this is not as recommended is because winning a knight, winning a rook, but losing a knight is 5 minus 3. This is 3-0. That's why taking a free bishop is generally better, because now the knight is sort of stuck, all right? Now Sykkuno plays king f3, kind of a savage move, trying to battle with his king, activate his bishop. Here, Black can self-mate himself. If Black plays bishop to e6, it's mate in 1, which is kind of nuts. This is just a nice little visualization exercise. But that didn't happen. Rook e8. I love this move. Now we have bishop b5 from Sykkuno. Again, showing that he might be 100, but no. All right? You can reverse his rating. He might be 600. King f3 to activate the bishop and hit the rook. And Peter gets out of danger. Good for him. e4 check's not a great move. A lot of beginners have blind spots with pawn captures. All right, but Black plays king back to g6, and here goes Sykkuno just marching that pawn up the board. He knows that when he gets to the other side, he's getting a queen. All right, position is about minus 1.9. Black has a 3-point material advantage, but his knight is stuck. Rook f8. Look at Sykkuno's board vision. Bishop to a3. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is like a guy who's played like 7 games of chess. Bishop a3, and Peter tries to get out with a knight. It would have been better to take the rook, but he just takes the knight. It's a free knight. And then he grabs the rook, and now White is just winning. White went from losing to winning to losing to winning to, you know. The craziest part is this game went 70 more moves. So you already know. Buckle up, folks. Buckle up. So bishop d7. That is a move designed to attack the bishop, and the bishop just takes the bishop. Good rule for beginners. A piece cannot attack the same exact piece. That's just not how it works. It's like trying to punch yourself in the mirror. I mean, maybe you'll succeed, but it's going to hurt. Yeah, don't do that. You know, you can go here if you're protected. That's what we call an exchange. This is simply losing material. So bishop takes d7. Now it's back to about equal, but Black is better because this is an endgame, and Black has more pawns. In the endgame, pawns matter a whole lot more than they do under normal circumstances. King f3. Now Black takes the pawn, okay? And the rook hits the king, so the king's got to go. And here I really wish Peter would have taken with the pawn here. Instead, Peter was like, oh, what a bozo. He hung his pawn, but he hangs his bishop in one move. You see, as we get into the endgame, you have a bigger responsibility to the chess gods to not blunder your pieces because there's very few pieces on the board, right? So you don't just have to look at what your pieces can do. You got to look at what your opponent's pieces are doing as well, okay? So bishop takes a4, not great because rook takes a4. I'll give you an example. In basketball, you see your teammate, you're not going to pass to him if the guy on the other team is very close and might steal the ball, right? So here right now, the bishop is lost. Now, the dangerous thing about endgames like this for beginners is if all the pawns go away. Pawns must stay on the board. Why? Because pawns become queens. If there are no pawns on the board, it's going to be really difficult to beat somebody with rook and horse versus rook, unless that person hangs every piece. So, rook f1 is an excellent move attacking the knight. The knight moves, gives a check, runs and starts winning his pawns. Beautiful sequence of moves here. Love it. Knight goes back, Peter takes the rest of the pawns. Just savage endgame play here. Peter playing like Magnus Carlsen. All right, rook a7. Saikuno also playing like Magnus Carlsen. b5. All right, their pawns are just flying off the board. Now, I would have loved to see Peter go here, because once Saikuno lost his last pawn, I'm not convinced he would have found a way to win this game. But that doesn't happen, and Peter starts trying to sneak the pawn through. Saikuno takes the pawn. Peter tries to sneak the pawn through. Saikuno has to stop that pawn. He's got to stop this. 2-4. He loses the race, but he misevaluates, and all of a sudden, he's lost the race by 1 tempo. Black is completely winning. It's M. It's M on the board. When it's M on the board, when you see M on the eval bar, you got to go for the king. Obviously, we don't see the eval bar when we play, but you got to go for the king. Peter gives a check. Saikuno runs. Peter gives a check. Saikuno runs. At this point, you can start getting the rook involved, all right? He does, but he hangs the rook. He hangs the rook in one move. Saikuno doesn't take it. It's mate. I mean, bring the rook. It's check. All right, king c6. Rook. Oh, he takes the knight. Wait a minute. He took the knight. Saikuno sneaks the queen in. Oh my gosh, this is still completely winning for black. Queen c2 check. King runs. You got to get the rook involved here. All right, queen b2. Oh, it's a cross check. This is unbelievable. Black now has to trade, but black has more pawns on the board. So black, if he's aware, is going to promote more. He is aware. Here he goes. Look at him running the pawn down the board. Wait, why did he stop? Why did he stop running the pawn down the board? He was doing so well. He went h5, h4, h3, and then he just didn't run the pawn again. h2 wins the game. It's lights out. No. Now here, white can actually sneakily win the game. Can you find the win here for white if black plays h1? It's a crazy moment. What's worth more than a queen? The king. You can sneak behind and actually land a checkmate because black his pieces commit mutiny. They're blocking in their own king. All right, so anytime you see that, it's never too late to save a game. Instead of that, Saikuno just goes for a bailout. Rook takes g5. That's it. Peter's got to take. And the way you would win this, newbies, is you would make a queen and just ladder checkmate. You got to know your ladder, all right? Look up ladder checkmate, okay? So instead of that, okay, Peter goes here. He thinks his king is in check. Saikuno hangs the rook again. Peter doesn't take, and now it's rook versus queen. Queen versus rook is a winning endgame, but it's very difficult. And the worst case scenario here is that one of them hangs the queen or the rook, right? So queen d5, every move here should be check. So you want to give checks and deflect the king away from the rook. Give a check, win the rook, okay? But queen d5, all right? Rook g3, queen f7, and oh my God, he hung his queen in one move. Peter Park is now unable to win this game. It's it. He only has a king. The result is not possible for him to win. So it's up to Saikuno to put the game away. King h6, king f6. Now, when you are trying to mate, let's say you're low on time as a beginner, if you see the enemy king on the last rank, stick it there. Run to the opposite side of the board and make sure you get your king on knight opposition on the side of your rook. Knight opposition is, if your king was a horse or a knight, it would be checking this king. The reason you need to do this is because the king has two options: run or get mated. When the king faces you, you can mate on the side of the board. If the king runs, knight opposition, runs, knight opposition, all the way down, and then mate. Okay, so keep the king paralyzed. This is fine, and this is on the other side now, but you have to waste a move. Knight opposition on the side of your rook. If you do it this way, the king will run and hit the rook. So rook g5, you want to avoid checks. You don't need to give any checks. This is good. You let the king off. Not good. You let the king off, but Oh, it's mate. No, it's mate. Oh, no, he missed mate twice. Now the king runs the other way. Oh my God, are they gonna, oh my God, it's mate in one. It's mate. Okay, if Sykkuno plays king e3 now, they 3-time repeat. It's gonna be repetition. Okay, thank God. All right, no draw. King is running away. Beautiful. Okay, now you wanna cut the king off. Do not let him run. No, you cannot get face-to-face when it's not your move. Do not do that when it's not your move. King's just gonna keep running. All right, perfect. Knight opposition. King f6. Let's go. Knight opposition. Okay, no. Now, see? Now the king's escaping it. All right, Sykkuno, you got one more crack at this. All right? Run away. Run far. Oh my God, he hung his... Oh my... He could have... Okay, he didn't take his rook. All right, king f4. There you go. Sykkuno. Yes. Yeah, perfect. Okay, not great. Keep the king in a box. Run as far away. Do not let the king get close. No, you want to run. Yes. Better. Get the king back. Yes. Get the king. Yes. Defend the rook. Okay, run. Don't let him take you. Don't let him take... And I guess, as they say, when chess is played perfectly, it is a draw.